David K. Johnston is the Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist who earlier this year got his hands on the only bits of Donald Trump's federal taxes that have ever been released. David K. Johnston is the reporter who obtained 2 pages of Trump's 2005 tax returns, which the White House later confirmed were authentic. David is a specialist on tax issues and financial reporting. He's also the founder of DCReport.org. Mr. Johnston, it is great to have you back. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Rachel.
So, you saw my opening remarks there about the window that we have had in the past into the president's finances. The special counsel, Robert Mueller, is reportedly looking into the president's business transactions, his financial transactions. You know more about Donald Trump's financial past than almost anybody else on earth who is not named Trump. Given what you know, and given what we now understand about the Mueller investigation, does it strike you as strange that the president doesn't appear to be like red teaming his finances, having a legal team and forensic accountants go through his stuff to try to build up a defense for those records against whatever Mueller might find?
Well, any normal person, you would expect that of. And let me begin by making a very important point. Most people who are in business are fundamentally honest. They may do some things here and there and cut edges, but overall, they conduct themselves with honor. Donald Trump has no honor. He doesn't see anything wrong with the things that he does. And one of the reasons he may not be worried at all about what's going to happen is he now has the power of the pardon, which is pretty close to unlimited. He can't undo what's happened. And he has in the past relied heavily on, well, the records are missing. There's missing documents. That's a lot of what Ellen Burstein's work was about. By the way, they found many of those supposedly lost records eventually because they were diligent. But no, it's not particularly surprising. But the important thing to keep in mind here is that to Trump, not paying you for work that you did, not honoring a contract, cutting off the health care of your own grandnephew and putting his life in jeopardy, what else could I do? What else could I do? Would be his attitude, and you see this in everything he says and does.
But David, in terms of what's about to happen here with the Mueller investigation, obviously we've seen, this news that FBI agents raided Paul Manafort's home. They were reportedly after financial information. We've had these reports about the grand jury subpoenas that have gone out, not just from Congress, but also from federal prosecutors' offices for Flynn and Manafort and their business transactions. I mean, these are people around Trump who would conceivably be in a position to be able to be witnesses if they were flipped on anything untoward that might have happened with Russia during the campaign. The kind of pressure that's coming down from this team that Mueller's put together with all these financial experts will be looking not for matters of honor and not for matters of whether or not somebody's a savory businessman, but they'll be looking for crimes.
That's right.
And short of the pardon, is there a way that the president should be preparing for that anybody should be preparing for that kind of scrutiny?
Well, as you pointed out, he hasn't picked exactly the folks you would expect as lawyers to represent these things. And Mueller's team, you notice, is not heavy on counterintelligence. It's very heavy on financial fraud, on money laundering. And those are the areas where I'm sure Donald is highly vulnerable. He's had several transactions with Russian oligarchs that make absolutely no business sense whatsoever. They only make sense if they are part of fraudulent transactions. There have been numerous examples of people who've gotten mortgages with no underwriting because Trump told various bankers to do so. The story of the clerk who misfiled. In Manhattan, we had the mystery of the missing Manhattan sewage that was crucial to his efforts that failed later to develop the West Side yards. And I'm sure that Mueller's people are going to discover lots of problems with records being non-existent or nonsensical. And so, of course, they're going to want to turn people. But those won't just be people like Paul Manafort. They may be clerks, they may be lawyers, they may be accountants who Donald has persuaded one way or another to act improperly. The system of corrupting people in business is not greatly different, though less sophisticated, than what the Russians do when they try to compromise someone over a period of time, as it was clear they were trying to do when they met with Donald Trump Jr. in June of last year.
So, David, in terms of the president's legal representation, I am very struck by, as you were just describing, I'm very struck by the the expertise of his team and the type of folks who he's brought on and the kind of work they've done in the past, and especially the contrast with the type of financial and tax experts who Mueller has on his side of the ledger. If you were advising the president in terms of how to put together effective legal representation, given what you know about his finances and his past business practices, what kind of legal representation should he have? Who should he be lining up to defend him?
Well, he needs to be lining up criminal defense lawyers whose background is in successfully representing people who've been gone after by the SEC, by Preet Bharara, and others. And frankly, the best advice he could probably get is, if you haven't lost records, lose them, because those records will come back to haunt you. But, you know, records leave fingerprints elsewhere. If you're involved in money laundering, FinCEN, the financial enforcement group we have, which is essentially IRS people, they are very good at all the trillions of dollars sloshing around the world at finding a particular transaction, connecting up the dots on things. And Mueller has the team and the resources to go and pursue these things. And if they can just turn a handful of people, especially if those people are smart enough to have kept something to protect themselves if it went badly, they will not have a hard time doing what Mueller's job is to do, and that's to make a case or cases.
David K. Johnston, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist, founder of DCReport.org. David, really appreciate you being here on a Friday night. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right, lots more to come tonight. Stay with us.